The Scott Pilgrim anime is going to be insane. If you haven't heard, straight from the luscious, beautiful, wonderful mouth of the Canadian comic artist Bryan Lee O'Malley, a full Scott Pilgrim anime adaptation is in the works, and it includes an entire returning cast from the movie. If that doesn't instantly blow your mind, let's try remembering who was in the movie. Almost all of them have gone on to be huge stars if they weren't already. Lucas Lee, try Captain America. Todd Ingram, try freaking Superman. How about Envy? Try Captain Marvel. Stacy Pilgrim, Anna Kendrick. Aubrey Plaza, Jason Schwartzman, Mae Whitman, Kieran Culkin, and of course, Michael Cera. The list trails on though. Mark Webber, Johnny Simmons, and of course, Ramona herself, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Pretty much no matter what kind of moviegoer you are, you have seen a movie with one of these people in it. But really, aside from how insane that is, that they've actually managed to get this entire cast back together after like 10 years, one crazy thing to note is the studio animating it. Science Saru, the official animation studio of the critically acclaimed director Masaaki Yuasa. And if you're not, by some chance, weeb enough to know who I'm talking about, try this. Masaaki Yuasa is renowned for his style and flavor, and it bleeds through all of the studio's projects, even when he's not involved. But not only that, Edgar Wright is coming back on as an executive producer for the work here as well. He was, of course, if you're not familiar with his wonderful works on Shaun of the Dead, Baby Driver, etc., as well as being the director of the Scott Pilgrim movie, and I think he did an incredible job implementing those ideas naturally. You might be thinking, okay, so if you have everybody, why do it again? If you got a lot of the same people, same voices, same characters, world, story, doesn't it seem a bit unnecessary? I mean, the movie is a cult classic darling. Is this just a cheap reverse live-action remake? An animated retelling of a live-action story? And with that, I am so excited to tell you, no. Famously, Bryan Lee O'Malley actually was working on the final volume of Scott Pilgrim during the production of the Scott Pilgrim film. See, it was picked up before it was finished, and early sometime in development, they decided that they would, instead of following each other's blueprint closely, split off drastically in different directions for the finale. The final plot twist, the reveal, the battle, they're all extremely different, not just narratively, but thematically too. Not only that, but due to the movie needing to cram in a lot of the content into a small amount of runtime, tons of characters and backstories and everything were cut entirely from the movie just to make it make sense. Stephen Stills getting a boyfriend, one of my favorite characters, Lisa, and a multitude of substantial flashbacks for context on past relationships that Scott was in. I mean, it's mainly a throwaway line in the movie, oh, what about that time you dated so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. Here we actually get to dive into it in the comic and, of course, in this anime adaptation. Unlike the movie, the color-negative version of Scott wasn't just a simple gag or reference, but materialized as a genuine threat in the story. Scott Pilgrim, you see, is an awful person. He's pathetic and plays the victim, refuses to acknowledge how he hurts people, and while this is still a message and element of the Scott Pilgrim movie, it was far more leaned into in the comic. Going back to his hometown, having Ramona leave him at one point, and him crashing on Wallace's couch for an extended period of time, him having to reevaluate himself as a person and grow, reaching a certain point where he goes back by himself and doesn't pursue any relationship to try to realize what was wrong with him. The negative Scott in the story was really him being forced to confront the very real negative traits about himself he pretended weren't his or weren't there, and made the Scott Pilgrim comic resonate so much more with me when I first read it. This is what we're getting. Not only the familiar voices, the tastes and sensibilities of the movie, but the artistic renown of an iconic and beloved anime studio and director to bring to life the story of Scott Pilgrim, uncut. I love the Scott Pilgrim movie, obviously, but it's been really unfortunate seeing its cult classic status become eroded slowly by the bitter incel song that blew up on TikTok, pulling it down. People's ideas now of Ramona Flowers as a manic pixie dream girl always fall flat at the slightest analysis, but it's so much more apparent in the comic that this isn't true. Ramona is a drunk who runs away at the slightest bit of conflict. A person who doesn't let her emotions show and is terrified to get attached because the disappointment that she's been shown throughout her entire life. Scott Pilgrim is a disgusting loser. He idolizes her as a dream girl, but he doesn't understand a thing about her. And when he ends up with her and magically gets better, he doesn't magically get better, and it's not because of her whimsy. He learns more about her flaws and the flaws in himself in order to grow as a person personally and learn to want the real her that she is. It's not wish fulfillment. It's not an empowerment fantasy. It's a stupid, thoughtless, shallow loser improving on those things that drag him down by eventually, finally, when at the end of his road, facing himself and coming to terms and understanding the person that he cares about. And not just for her, but for himself. And she's not just some token to be won either, which is something I unfortunately think that the movie does lean into a little bit. This is especially apparent in the comic, and I hope for many of those who never saw the movie or built this false bad idea of the series from terrible internet takes of people who don't have the literary analysis skills of a rock, that when they see this series, they see the truth. Honestly, everything is looking up for it at this point. And you can bet I'll be clamoring to talk about it once it's out once again. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Scott Pilgrim is a series I read before I even started this YouTube channel, and the amount of time that I have considered making a video on it for years has to be like over 100 times. The music, the art style, I even have a limited edition box set from that Sus Company limited run. I once watched Scott Pilgrim every single day for a week in high school. In summary, Scott Pilgrim has been with me through the years, since early adolescence, and it's such a good series for that to be. A story that rejects ideas of masculinity that actively harm men and women alike. A story that encourages self-reflection and self-growth, and teaches people not to idolize the ones they fall for, but understand the person and make a decision after the fact. All wrapped up in the light-hearted air of video game references and fanciful backdrops as to never sound preachy and really punch home in the moments that it needs to. Lastly, some additional fun facts. While we don't have a release date yet, we do know that of course it's being produced by and coming to Netflix, and the director is one of the people who did Star Wars Visions. So I hope my passion got you hyped up in the very least. I have a ton of faith that this is going to be incredible. Again, everything really points to this being a huge passion project and amazing series. So let me know if you're excited, if you have any other thoughts, whether you think it's going to be good or for some reason why you would think it would be bad at this early on. And if you are dying for more Scott Pilgrim related content, and I don't mean YouTube videos, I mean like actual like series, please check out my most recent video talking about a little-known manga series that is essentially if Scott Pilgrim was a lesbian harem. Also, you can see that the background hasn't changed yet, and that is because we haven't moved yet, but I am literally moving the day that this is being posted. So, new background soon, hopefully. For updates on this as a series, the new upcoming Scott Pilgrim, you know I'm going to be making a video the second it comes out and giving my opinions and thoughts. I'm a huge Scott Pilgrim fan, and I've loved this series for literally, like, years. So please consider subscribing if you haven't below. And for any updates on this or anything else, of course, you can follow me on Twitter, you can join the Discord server, you can follow me on Twitch, Patreon, all that. And lastly, money is extremely tight. And when I say tight, I mean like $200 in my bank account and I can't pay the bills type of tight. So, a wonderful word of appreciation to my top patrons, Daniel Frausing, Zioma, Benny, Young Suk Chong, Rob Paulson, and everyone else who has seriously helped me out. Seriously, $1, $2, it helps tremendously once it adds up. It's great. Thank you all very much. I know this video is really quick turnaround from the last video, but I just had to talk about this. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.